the echoes of the Red House, a tale of fear and survival. The room was dim, lit by a single swaying bulb, casting wavering shadows on the cracked plaster walls. 5 people sat in a loose circle around Nathan, the survivor. His hands trembled as he sipped from a chipped coffee cup, his eyes darting nervously at the shadows.
I shouldn't be alive.
Nathan began, his voice barely a whisper.
I wasn't supposed to leave that house.
Laura, the skeptic, snorted and folded her arms.
Let me guess. Some crazy guy with a knife? Happens all the time.
Nathan's head snapped toward her, his eyes hollow.
You don't get it. This wasn't some maniac. It was them.
Chris, a detective who had seen his share of horrors, leaned forward.
Start from the beginning. What house?
The Red House, deep in the woods where no one goes anymore. I didn't believe the stories either, until I was invited.
Nathan nodded slowly, his voice trembling. Sam, the empath, tilted her head.
Invited by whom?
By a friend, or so I thought. Mia said it was just a weekend getaway. A chance to disconnect, you know?
Nathan's voice softened as he recounted the days leading up to the trip. Mia had been a friend from college, bright and adventurous, always pushing him to step out of his comfort zone. She said it would be fun, Nathan said, a bitter smile crossing his lips. 7 of us, no phones, just the woods and this old house her family supposedly owned. I was reluctant, but she insisted. The group included Mia, her boyfriend Jake, their friends Sarah and Leo, and 2 others Nathan barely knew, Dana and Marcus. They piled into 2 cars and drove deep into the forest. The road narrowed, the trees closing in like a tunnel, their branches clawing at the vehicles. Then we saw it, Nathan said, his eyes unfocused. The Red House. It looked like it had been there forever, weathered and decaying, but there was something wrong. The windows, they were like eyes watching us. The group unloaded their gear and explored the house. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of mildew and something metallic. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and the floorboards groaned under their weight. It felt alive, Nathan said, his voice breaking, like it was breathing. We all felt it, but no one wanted to say anything. We laughed it off, called it character or charm. But it wasn't funny. That night, the group gathered around the fireplace, sharing drinks and stories. The laughter masked their unease, but Nathan noticed the way their eyes darted to the shadows that seemed to move on their own. Sarah went out for firewood around midnight, Nathan said, his hands gripping his knees. She never came back. The next morning, the group searched the woods. The trees seemed denser, the paths winding and unfamiliar. Hours passed, but there was no sign of Sarah. Jake was furious, Nathan said. He blamed us for letting her go alone. By noon, he decided to search deeper into the forest. We begged him not to, but he wouldn't listen. They waited anxiously, the hours dragging by. At sunset, Nathan heard a scream that chilled his blood. They found Jake the next morning, hanging from a tree. Symbols were carved into his chest, symbols that seemed to shimmer and writhe. Chris leaned forward. What did the symbols look like? Nathan replied.
Ancient, like something out of a nightmare. And then the whispering started.
The whispers were everywhere, Nathan continued. Soft at first, like wind through the trees, but soon they were loud, insistent, like voices just out of reach. Dana was the next to go. She had been staring at a mirror in one of the bedrooms, transfixed. When Nathan and Leo found her, the mirror was shattered, and Dana was gone. Marcus vanished in the dead of night. Nathan woke to find his bed empty, the sheets soaked in blood. The group was unraveling, their fear feeding the house. Mia and I were the only ones left, Nathan said. She wanted to fight, but I just wanted to survive. The house seemed to pulse with malevolence, the walls breathing in and out. The doors and windows were gone, replaced by seamless walls of rotting wood. Nathan and Mia huddled in the living room, clutching makeshift weapons. Then it came, Nathan said, his voice a whisper. A shadow, darker than anything I've ever seen. It moved like smoke, but it had eyes, eyes that burned into your soul. Mia screamed, charging at the entity. Nathan watched in horror as it consumed her, her body dissolving into ash. He froze, his mind blank with terror. "It wanted fear," Nathan said, tears streaming down his face. "Pain, but I gave it nothing. I stood there staring into its eyes and it let me go." The room fell silent, the group processing Nathan's story. Finally, Chris spoke. "The red house, where is it?" Nathan's lips curled into a weak smile. "Closer than you think." The light bulb shattered, plunging the room into darkness. A faint whispering began, growing louder, surrounding them. Shadows writhed, creeping along the walls. Nathan's voice was the last thing they heard. "It followed me to here."